I'm sure I can speak for everyone when I say this, but I'd love to know more about the future.
You're better off not knowing.
What's that?
I said you're better off not knowing.
Discover the 10 most astonishing time traveler tales, from professors stumbling upon Marie Antoinette at Versailles to modern-day mysteries that challenge reality. Are these glimpses into the past or elaborate hoaxes? Watch till the end to find out. In 1901, two esteemed professors from St. Hugh's College in Oxford, England, embarked on a leisurely excursion through the grandeur of the Palace of Versailles. The palace, once the opulent residence of French royalty until the monarchy's demise in 1792, holds within its walls the echoes of Marie Antoinette's existence, a poignant reminder of regal opulence dimmed by the specter of revolution. With scholarly curiosity as their guide, the professors traverse the sprawling estate, immersing themselves in the storied past that whispers through the corridors. As they stroll through the meticulously manicured gardens and admire the ornate architecture, they find themselves inexorably drawn to the secluded sanctuary constructed for Marie Antoinette by her devoted spouse, Louis XIV. Amidst this tranquil retreat, where the whispers of history dance with the breeze, the professor's journey takes an unexpected turn. In a moment, frozen in time, they behold the ethereal figure of Marie Antoinette herself, adorned in the fashion of the 1780s, engaged in the act of sketching. Yet, she's not alone. Surrounding her are many similarly attired individuals, their presence as enigmatic as the mist that shrouds the palace gardens at dawn. A tableau of astonishment unfolds before the professor's eyes as they grapple with the surreal sight. Are they witnessing a glimpse of the past, a rift in the fabric of time? Or, in the labyrinthine corridors of Versailles, the veil between the corporeal and the ethereal is tantalizingly thin. Their reverie is abruptly interrupted by the approach of their tour guide, whose mundane presence seems to dispel the mystical apparitions in an instant. As swiftly as they materialized, the figures dissolved into the ether, leaving only the lingering question of their existence. In the aftermath of their extraordinary encounter, the professors find themselves compelled to commit their experience to paper, penning a tome that captivates the imagination of readers far and wide. Did they travel through time? Or is this all just made up? I guess. In the bustling year of 1996, a man and his wife traversed the streets of Liverpool, engaged in a leisurely bout of shopping. While his wife delves into the offerings of a quaint bookstore, the man opts to explore further, setting off down the bustling street in search of a CD emporium. As he meanders, the cacophony of urban life gradually fades into a hushed stillness, leaving him with a sense of eerie isolation. Suddenly, his attention is seized by the sight of a vintage van careening down the street, its horn blaring discordantly as it swerves past him. It's a curious anomaly in the modern landscape, yet before he can fully process it, he realizes with a jolt that he's standing squarely in the thoroughfare, surrounded by pedestrians donned in retro 1950s attire. Panic flickers briefly across his features as he grapples with the inexplicable situation. How could he have been transported in time amidst a period drama scene? Shaking off the surreal disorientation, he resolves to return to the familiar sanctuary of the bookstore where he last left his wife. Determined, he wheels around, only to find the once familiar facade of the bookstore replaced by the entrance to a woman's clothing boutique. Is this a trick of the mind, or a harbinger of more profound mysteries yet to be unveiled? His heart pounds in his chest as he grapples with the disconcerting metamorphosis. Yet, as swiftly as the illusion appeared, it dissipated, and the bookstore materialized before his eyes once more, as if mocking his bewildered state. Haunted by the enigma of his temporal displacement, he begins a quest for answers, delving into the annals of history to unravel the mysteries of his inexplicable journey. Along the way, he discovers that the clothing boutique he briefly glimpsed had ceased to exist since the 1950s, adding another layer of intrigue to his bewildering experience. As the echoes of the past reverberate through the corridors of his mind, he grapples with the tantalizing possibility that he may have stumbled upon a portal to a bygone era, forever altering his perception of reality. In 1932, journalist J. Bernard Hutton and photographer Joachim Brandt received an assignment from a German newspaper to cover the activities at the Hamburg shipyard. As they delve into their task, everything progresses smoothly and uneventfully until an abrupt and dramatic twist disrupts the tranquility. Both Hutton and Brandt find themselves ensnared in the chaos of an air raid, with bombs raining down around them. Ever the dedicated photographer, Brandt hastily captures a series of photos amidst the turmoil. Despite the danger, they evacuate the area, shaken but unharmed. Upon their return to central Hamburg, they recount their harrowing experience, only to be met with disbelief. Determined to substantiate their account, they develop their photographs, expecting to find evidence of the ordeal they endured. However, to their astonishment, the developed images failed to corroborate their narrative. Faced with skepticism and devoid of tangible proof, the pair grapples with the incredulity of those around them, resigned to the reality that their story may forever remain unvalidated. Nevertheless, 11 years later, fate intervenes remarkably. Hutton, now residing in London, is met with a startling revelation as he peruses the pages of a newspaper one fateful day. The publication details the events of Operation Gomorrah, an air raid launched in Hamburg. To his astonishment, the photographs accompanying the article mirror precisely the scenes he and Brandt had witnessed 11 years prior. In the wake of this inexplicable revelation, questions abound. Had Hutton and Brandt traversed through time during their assignment, re-emerging 11 years later to witness the events they had documented? The truth eludes them, leaving room for speculation and uncertainty to shroud their extraordinary experience. A TikTok user known by the username Live Your Lie starts posting videos claiming to be a time traveler from 3036. He offers warnings to his audience, asserting that they are experiencing the peak of freedom, which will diminish. He advises them to appreciate their current circumstances despite their perceived simplicity. When questioned about the population of his era, he states that it exceeds 2 billion people. He mentions an event known as the Big Blackout, purportedly occurring in December 2052. According to him, during this blackout, all forms of connectivity, including the internet and power, ceased for up to 5 years due to the terrors. However, some skeptics speculate about alternate explanations. But what explanations lie beyond the surface of this seemingly fantastical tale? And how do they challenge our perceptions of reality? He describes the period following the blackout as marked by riots and turmoil, lasting for 2 decades until systems are fully restored. Additionally, he reveals that zoos in 3036 still exist, but primarily house smaller animals like dogs and cats, as the larger species have disappeared. The authenticity of his claims raises doubts and questions among viewers. While some appreciate the purported foresight into the future, others wonder why he doesn't share any positive aspects of the coming times. Furthermore, the existence of time travel in 3036 prompts inquiries about why individuals don't journey back to better eras. These uncertainties leave the authenticity of his assertions open to interpretation, inviting speculation about the truth behind his claims. In 1935, Air Marshal Sir Victor Goddard, then a wing commander, received orders to proceed to an inactive air base located in Drem, Scotland. As he flies over the base, he observes its dismal condition, with grass protruding through the tarmac and cattle grazing amidst the derelict surroundings. Mid-flight, encountering adverse weather conditions, he lands at the abandoned air base to wait out the inclement weather. However, upon nearing the base, the torrential downpour inexplicably ceases, giving way to a sudden emergence of bright sunlight. What perplexes him further is the once desolate air base's astonishing transformation into a bustling activity hub, with mechanics clad in blue overalls diligently working on yellow planes. This abrupt change defies logic. The base appeared deserted and dilapidated moments earlier. Moreover, the mechanics' attire and the presence of yellow planes diverge from the norms of the time, as the Air Force typically utilized silver-painted planes and khaki uniforms. Bewildered and incredulous, Sir Goddard departs the scene, his mind reeling with unanswered questions. Yet, his bewilderment only intensifies 4 years later when he revisits Drem and witnesses the same scene he had encountered previously. A surreal moment of déjà vu. Was his perception distorted on that fateful day 4 years prior? Did he inadvertently journey into the future, akin to a Flight 828 situation? Unfortunately, definitive answers remain elusive amidst the perplexing enigma surrounding the events. The mysteries surrounding Sir Goddard's inexplicable encounter may forever remain uncertain, leaving room for speculation and conjecture. Indeed, Edgar Allan Poe's alleged status as a time traveler sparks speculation and debate among enthusiasts. 2 compelling pieces of evidence emerged to bolster this extraordinary claim. But what unseen forces might have propelled Poe into time travel, and what secrets might he have uncovered during his purported voyages? Firstly, Poe's sole-completed novel, published in 1838, unfurls a gripping narrative of mutiny aboard a whaling ship lost at sea. As the desperate crew grapples with the harsh reality of survival, they draw straws to determine the sacrificial lamb for sustenance. Remarkably, a young lad named Richard Parker draws the shortest straw, sealing his fate as the next meal. Fast forward 46 years to 1884, where reality mirrors Poe's fictional account. 4 men find themselves adrift after the catastrophic sinking of their yacht, facing a dire predicament akin to the characters in Poe's novel. Mirroring the macabre fate of Richard Parker, these mariners, confronted with the grim specter of starvation, elect to sacrifice and consume a cabin boy bearing the same name. But the intrigue doesn't end there. Poe's prescience extends beyond literature to the forefront of scientific discovery. In 1840, he penned The Businessman, a haunting tale depicting a protagonist who suffers a traumatic childhood head injury, subsequently leading a life marked by violence. What distinguishes this narrative is Poe's uncanny depiction of frontal lobe injury, a phenomenon not comprehensively understood until 1848. Noted neurologist Erich Alschuler marvels at Poe's acute portrayal, which meticulously captures a myriad of symptoms associated with frontal lobe trauma. The accuracy of Poe's portrayal defies conventional explanation, raising tantalizing questions about the source of his seemingly prophetic insights. Could Poe truly have possessed knowledge beyond his time, transcending the confines of conventional understanding? Or are these instances merely serendipitous coincidences, shrouded in the fog of historical interpretation? As enthusiasts and scholars continue to dissect Edgar Allan Poe's enigma, the mystery of his alleged time-traveling exploits persists, casting a beguiling shadow over the annals of literary history. On January 28, 2003, the police arrested and detained Andrew Carlson for insider trading on Wall Street. His astonishing rise in wealth from $800 to a staggering $350 million in just 2 weeks prompts suspicion among authorities. They suspect he gained his profits through illicit insider trading information. However, when questioned about his methods, Andrew claims to hail from 2256 and boasts foreknowledge of stock performances. Despite his assertions, skepticism prevails, and authorities dismiss his story as an outlandish fabrication. Upon being released on bail, Andrew vanishes without a trace. Despite exhaustive efforts to locate him, his whereabouts remain unknown. Adding to the intrigue, rumors circulated that he accurately predicted the precise date of the U.S. invasion of Iraq. Speculations run rampant amid the perplexing circumstances surrounding Andrew's sudden wealth and subsequent disappearance. Could there be truth to his claims of time travel, or is his story merely a concoction of an elaborate hoax? The mystery of Andrew Carlson continues to baffle and intrigue those who encounter his enigmatic tale. In the bustling city of Kiev, Ukraine, a curious incident unfolded in 2006, fueling widespread speculation and intrigue. A bewildered man causes a disturbance, prompting local law enforcement officers to respond. Upon arrival, they encounter a young man, visibly shaken and disoriented, clad in attire reminiscent of a bygone era, and clutching an antiquated camera. This encounter marks the beginning of what many speculate as a rare brush with a genuine time traveler. But how could someone from the past seemingly appear in the 21st century? The young man introduces himself as Sergey Ponomarenko. A routine request for identification takes a surreal turn when he presents an ID card issued by the Soviet Union, a nation that ceased to exist in the early 1990s. The police officers are taken aback, not just by the anachronistic document, but also by the fact that it bears the photo of a man who, despite his youthful demeanor, claims to have been born in 1932. Further adding to the mystery, Sergey insists that the current date is April 23, 1958, prompting the authorities to seek a psychiatric evaluation. Sergey's story unfolds under the observation of Dr. Pavlo Kudrikov at a mental health facility. He shares a bewildering account of his journey from 1958 to today. He speaks of an ordinary day turned extraordinary when, intending to capture the city's sights with his camera, he encounters a peculiar bell-shaped object soaring through the skies. Unlike anything he has seen, the object prompts him to document the sight with his camera. The vintage Yashima Flex camera becomes a focal point of intrigue. Dr. Kudrikov, interested in photography, recognizes the model as a rare artifact. Adam Poisoner, a photography expert, is consulted to develop the film, which astonishingly appears to be in pristine condition despite being manufactured in 1956. The developed photographs present a visual journey back in time, depicting scenes of Kiev in the 1950s, complete with period-accurate cars, clothing, and signage. Among these images is Sergey, recognizable and dressed identically to his appearance upon discovery, alongside a female companion basking in the ambience of a bygone era. The final photograph on the reel captures the elusive bell-shaped UFO. Sergey's vanishing act further compounds this bewildering discovery. He disappears without a trace after being secured in a monitored room for the night. Security footage confirms his entry into the room, but fails to capture any sign of his departure. The room, securely locked and under constant surveillance, with barred windows preventing escape, defies logic with Sergey's unexplained absence. The ensuing investigation uncovers records of Sergey Ponomarenko, reported missing in Kiev in 1960, and leads to the identification of the woman in the photographs as his girlfriend from the era, now an elderly woman. She corroborates Sergey's tale, recounting his mysterious disappearance in 1958, his brief return, and his subsequent vanishing in the 1970s. In a twist that further blurs the lines between reality and fiction, she receives a photograph years after his disappearance, purportedly from Sergey, dated 2050, showing him aged but unmistakably the same, set against a futuristic skyline of Kiev. Despite exhaustive searches for corroborating evidence, tangible proof remains elusive. On July 29, 1998, Art Bell, the host of Coast to Coast AM, was doing a segment called Open Timelines. He wanted calls from people who claimed to be time travelers. Naturally, this attracted a lot of oddballs. But then, something different happened. A fax came in that felt strangely real. It was addressed, "Dear Artifacts." The fax claimed to be from a time traveler from the year 2500. He explained that time travel was invented in 2034 thanks to some advanced fusion reactor research at CERN. He described a singularity engine that rotates singularities inside a magnetic field, allowing time travel forward and backward in time. The time traveler explained that when you go back in time, you stick to your original timeline, but when you turn off the engine, a new timeline is created. He mentioned some exciting outcomes, like meeting younger versions of themselves and making subtle changes to history. However, he also mentioned a problem. Anyone traveling forward from 2036 hit a roadblock in 2564. He asked for prayers to uncover why there seemed to be no future beyond that point. A few days later, another fax arrived from someone claiming to be the same time traveler. He had been on our timeline since April of that year and wanted to help by sharing information about the future. He offered to send pages from his time machine's manual and colored photos of his vehicle as proof. Unfortunately, Art Bell never heard from this person again, but his claim sparked much interest. 2 years later, someone called Time Traveler Zero, later known as John Titor. He described his time machine, an IBM 5100 computer, and the future events he'd experienced. John's post contained detailed scientific explanations and predictions, including a civil war starting in 2004 and World War III in 2015 that devastated the planet. Titor's time machine, the C-204, used microsingularities for power and a variable gravity lock system to stay anchored to Earth during time travel. Despite skepticism, Titor provided diagrams and photos of his machine. He described the experience of time travel as a quick acceleration with no serious side effects, but advised against eating beforehand due to gravitational forces involved. Despite his detailed explanations, Titor remained anonymous, leaving behind only a close relationship with one person, Pamela Moore, who knew a secret song as a password for verifying his identity. In his final message in March 2001, Titor explained why time travelers avoid revealing themselves, citing the risk and futility of interfering with other timelines. He expressed disappointment in humanity's lack of curiosity about specific events. And just like that, John vanished, leaving a trail of curiosity and skepticism. Mike Marcum, an amateur inventor from Stanbury, Missouri, enjoys tinkering despite his lack of formal science training. He has a natural knack for electronics. But what makes a backyard resemble a junkyard yet brim with potential? His back porch resembles a junkyard for home appliances, with dismantled old TVs, radios, and CD players everywhere, along with spools of copper wire and magnets of various sizes. He's working on a modified Jacob's ladder, which involves two metal rods that produce climbing arcs of electricity as they diverge upwards. To kickstart this project, he needs to build an electronic transformer, which is essential for generating the high voltage necessary for the Jacob's ladder. The standard household voltage of 120 or 240 volts in the United States won't suffice. So, Mike decides to construct his transformer, wrapping two wire coils around a common core. This setup allows him to convert the 120-volt household supply into a 20,000-volt power source for his conductors made from wire hangers. When voltage is applied to these conductors, it ionizes the air particles between them, allowing current to flow and creating an electrical arc that moves along the conductors as the air heats up and becomes less dense. Mike came up with the idea to use lasers to heat the air around the conductors, aiming to lower air resistance and ionize it, automatically igniting the spark. After implementing lasers from CD players and connecting his homemade transformer, the initial test fails to produce a spark. However, Mike notices a strange sphere of distorted air hovering above the device. As curiosity builds, what does Mike do next? He throws a screw into this field, which disappears momentarily before reappearing a few feet away. This phenomenon leads him to speculate about the potential for teleportation or time displacement. Driven by his discovery, Mike plans to rebuild a much larger version of his machine, requiring significantly more power. Convinced he has invented a time machine, he aims to scale up his prototype, which necessitates a power source beyond what his homemade transformer can provide. Faced with the need for industrial-grade transformers, Mike resorts to stealing them from a local power company substation, which eventually lands him in jail for 60 days and on 5 years probation. Despite these setbacks, Mike's story garners attention and leads to an interview with Art Bell on the Coast to Coast radio show. During the interview, Mike demonstrates his knowledge and humility, captivating the audience and earning Art's respect. This exposure marks a turning point, opening new doors for Mike's inventive endeavors. Millions of people tuned into that interview that night, and soon after, the calls started pouring in with offers. Some had transformers to donate, others had property to use, and many were eager to financially support Mike in constructing a new, giant machine. How do you feel, Michael, about the chance of someone stepping in to mentor you further, perhaps even funding a gigantic version of your machine? Oh, that'd be fantastic, like a dream come true. In the following days, Mike and his newly formed team began planning. He engaged with several physicists, seeking their advice on his technology and its potential for time travel. With their help, Mike devised a mechanism involving rotating magnets to enhance the machine's controllability. Securing a warehouse, all necessary equipment, and more power than he ever imagined, Mike spent a year building an upgraded, more extensive version of his time machine. And guess what? The machine worked. After nearly 18 years, Art Bell finally caught up with Mike Marcum. Could it be that Mike had discovered the impossible? Having thought Mike might be deceased, Art was surprised to find him alive and well. "I called you a madman because I feared you'd electrocute yourself, turning into a crispy fry," Art confessed. Unlike others who ventured into time travel and vanished without a trace, Mike "Madman" Marcum remained. His previous appearance on Coast to Coast had attracted many benefactors, providing him with funds, equipment, and ample power. Settled in a warehouse in Overland Park, Kansas, Mike built several versions of his time machine, the most successful of which utilized rotating magnets. This innovation allowed him to create what he called a plasma tornado, a significant improvement over his initial attempts. Using a magnetic field to stir the plasma proved much more efficient, Mike explained. His new machine, towering 15 feet and harnessing 3 million volts, was a testament to his ingenuity and determination. Mike explained the science behind the machine. Volts measure the force driving electric current, akin to the pressure in a water hose, while amps indicate the current's flow. His machine, drawing power from the grid and additional generators, operated on a scale far beyond ordinary household usage. Mike created a rotating magnetic field with 2 cylinders, surrounded by a ring of electromagnets, generating a plasma vortex reminiscent of the Philadelphia experiment's descriptions. Despite skepticism and his previous arrest, where police dismissed his claims of building a time machine, some scientists believed Mike's approach was theoretically sound, aligning with Einstein's equations that permit time travel. Mike began testing his machine with small objects, which would vanish upon entering the vortex, only to reappear minutes later, always east or west of the machine. This directional consistency puzzled Mike, leading him to speculate on the influence of the Earth's rotation or magnetic field on the reappearing objects. 15 people, all of whom had contributed money or equipment, witnessed the tests firsthand. Mike let them be a part of the project, and they eagerly attended. Mike's tests were so successful that he began sending small animals, including mice, hamsters, and guinea pigs, through the machine. No more cats, though, someone noted. That's a shame. Between the inanimate objects and the animals, Mike successfully tested the machine about 200 times. He discovered that varying the magnet's voltage and speed could adjust how far and long objects traveled before reappearing. Before long, Mike could accurately predict where an object would end up and its return time. At this point, there was only one test left. Do you mean? Yes. Mike stood before the vortex, took a deep breath, and jumped. A flash of light followed, and Mike disappeared. Art Bell, who had closely followed Mike's project and planned to visit the warehouse, said, "When Mike regained consciousness, he wasn't in the warehouse, but lying in a field with the worst headache ever and no memory of his identity. He began walking, and slowly, his memories returned. Eventually, Mike found himself in Fairfield, Ohio, 800 miles due east of the warehouse in Overland Park, Kansas. Without any ID, money, or credit cards, he headed to the nearest homeless shelter for a meal and to regroup. There, a newspaper revealed he had jumped 2 years into the future. After taking odd jobs, Mike gathered enough money for a bus ride back to his warehouse, only to find it empty. All his equipment, videos, notes, and documentation had vanished. Despite the loss, Mike was confident he could recreate the machine, remembering 90 to 95% of the process, though it would require significant funds. With his list of donors gone, Mike's third appearance on Coast to Coast was crucial. He updated Art on everything, and although not seeking money, found people ready to help. Suggestions included setting up a GoFundMe account and pursuing a book deal, possibly with a ghostwriter to handle the technical details. There were also suggestions to work with the government or DARPA, though Mike was wary of potential strings attached. Art Bell encouraged Mike to continue his work, leaving everyone wondering what was next for Madman Marcum. Mike continued his experiments, planning to travel with items that could help him recover his memory if needed. He faced challenges with metal objects traveling through the vortex until he discovered that a specifically designed metal tube could act as a Faraday cage, allowing metal items to pass unharmed. Mike built a large online following and announced his plan to travel through the vortex inside the tube, taking his cell phone for notes photos, and even money. This was the last anyone heard from him. While keeping track of Mike, Art Bell was disappointed to learn he had disappeared again. During a radio show, a disturbing call came in about a newspaper article from 1930 describing a man found dead in a metal drum on a beach with a strange rectangular device, his only possession. With no ID, he was named John Doe, but some suspected he was Mike. Our next video dives even deeper into unexplained phenomena. If you're intrigued by time travel mysteries, don't miss out on more mind-bending stories. Click here to continue the journey through time.